Hey y'all, it's Santana, aka Tam's Book Diary, and I'm back with another video. Happy belated Mother's Day. Turning you a little bit. It is still May, hopefully, when I upload this, but this is a long overdue video. Transparency, I actually filmed this video like 2 weeks ago, and I've been sitting on the footage because I'm not proud of what it looked like. So I decided to refilm it instead of scrapping the entire idea. So this is why it's a little late, but I really wanted to film this video because I know Mother's Day can just be a little tricky for a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. And I know it can also be a day of joy as well. I did see a lot of posts about people becoming new mothers, people who have been mothers for a while, found mothers, chosen mothers, or mother figures being celebrated. And then I also saw a lot of people who were, expressing feelings of grief or just not super close with their mother. So I also want to validate that too. Like, not everyone is perfect and not everyone's relationship with their mother is perfect. And I just want to say, like, wherever you are with your mother, I'm just praying that you have love and light in your life, wherever that comes from. But yeah, I felt inspired to talk about some books that featured some complex mother-daughter, specifically relationships. Just 5 books that I think really tug at my heartstrings and made me really delve deeper into like that mother-daughter dynamic. So yeah, let's just get right into it. I don't want to wait any longer. The first book is Happy Land by Dolan Perkins Valdez. I just listened to this about like a month or so ago on audio, and it's a multi-generational story. We follow a great-grandmother, a grandmother, a mother, and her daughter, and we see how they're very estranged at first, or estranged at the beginning of the story. They hadn't seen each other in about 8 years since the passing of Ronnie's father. So it's Mother Rita, I cannot remember her mother's name, Ronnie, and then Shawnee. So it's 4 women, 4 generations. And then we also follow Luella, who is the descendant of all 4 women. So she's a couple greats down the line before them. She was enslaved. Her and her family and the townspeople soon took over Happy Land, and she bought that land with her husband. She bought half the land in North Carolina and South Carolina. He bought half the land in North Carolina and South Carolina. She became the queen of Happy Land. We follow these 4 women discovering her queen status, Luella's queen status, as well as discovering how much land they didn't know she owned. And Mother Rita, who lives on the land currently, she's about to be evicted. A white family down the street is trying to buy her out. And so we just see kind of how they come together after being estranged for over 8 years to help save the land, as well as kind of like preserving their own mother-daughter, grandmother-granddaughter relationship. So I really enjoyed that book. It definitely talks a lot about that dynamic of like being in the middle between your mom and her mother and not wanting to choose sides, but also kind of seeing how both parties played a part in the demise of their relationship. My second one, I actually have the physical copy. It's Family Lore by Elizabeth Acevedo. I gave this 5 stars, sorry. On this multi-generational path we've been going on, we follow Flor, Matilda, Pastora, and Camilla. So we follow those 4 sisters, and we then follow their daughters, Ona and Yadi. And so we get to see kind of like the auntie niece dynamic as well, which I really enjoy. I am someone who's very close with my aunties, so that is also extremely important for me to see in books. We see that sister dynamic between Flor, Pastora, Matilda, and Camilla. And I love birth order in books as well. Like, being accurate to like the eldest is very by the book, strict, kind of like boom, 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 we need to do this. Whereas like Camilla, she is the youngest by about 10 years between her and her eldest sister. And so we see that dynamic too of like, she was almost raised as if she was an only child. And then some of them were raised in the United States, some were raised in the Dominican Republic. So it also was some cultural differences even between the sisters and the cousins and nieces. So I just also really enjoyed seeing that. I think in my review for this book, I felt like I was literally sitting in the living room while everything was like unfolding between the family. There was some magical realism in this book. Fleur predicts her death, and instead of freaking out in a normal way, she decides to plan her own funeral where she will be able to invite everyone that she wants to invite, dress the way she wants to dress, and be present at her own funeral. So she's going to have the funeral before her actual funeral. And so everyone is freaking out because they're just like, she has to have something mentally going on. Is she okay? What's happening? And this brings the sisters and the nieces together. So I really enjoyed this book. Highly recommend this. Elizabeth Acevedo is so poetic with her writing. She is a poet, so it makes so much sense. But she's just so good at making characters so compelling and so realistic. And though this is about complex mothers, there's a lot of talk also about that father-daughter dynamic that can be very tricky as well. So I really like that. My next one is an audiobook that I have not finished yet, but I did start. It's called Good Daughtering. The Essential Guide for Adult Daughters to Navigate Family Dynamics and Boundaries by Alyssa M. Alford. If you see me looking over here, it's also in my notes, just so you know. But that one just talks about the daughter-mother dynamic mainly. It does touch on father-daughter dynamics, but I feel like this one is more focused on the mother-daughter dynamic and how, just like the phrase or like the verb mothering, there's daughtering. So there's things that we as daughters innately do that is kind of like strictly just, if you're a daughter, you know. Whether you're only child, have multiple siblings, raise other people's kids, like we all can fall into this trope where either with our parents, we're constantly kind of on their necks about their health, about saving money for them. We might buy homes or cars or think about, like when we make major purchases, we're thinking about our parents constantly involved in that purchase. Like if I buy a 3-story house, will my mom be able to walk up these steps, or should I get one level so it's accessible to her? When you have kids, like planning time for your kids to see their grandparent, that is all daughtering. Helping our older neighbors with bills or just anything like that is daughtering. So I really enjoyed this book. It does have reflection questions after each chapter that I haven't taken yet, but I do plan to, because I want to see what my score would be on the daughtering scale, like extreme or fairly moderate, you know what I mean? But I haven't finished it, so I cannot give you like a full rounded out thought about it. But so far, I really enjoy it. And there's things that I find myself after reading it being like more aware that this is like a daughtering trait right now. Like something I'm doing is strictly because I am a daughter. So anyways, enough with the daughter talk. The second to last book is another physical book I read last year. It's called The Girls Who Grew Big by Layla Motley. I gave this 5 stars, ate this book up. I even like tabbed it a little bit. This book is going to have you in your feels. You're going to be upset, sad. You're going to be mad at some of the main characters sometimes. You're going to be hopeful. You're going to be rooting for them. We're all rooting for you. So yeah, like a lot of these characters in this book will make you feel multiple different ways. So go in with an open heart, an open mind. Do not judge these ladies. They are really young. We follow these 3 main girls, Adela, Simone, and Emery. They're from all different walks of life, but they all somehow come together in this small beach town in Florida, and they're labeled the girls. They're labeled the girls because they're all pregnant or were pregnant very young or had children at a young age, and they're teen moms or young adult mothers, and they've kind of been outcasted by their community, by their family, and they use each other as a support system, as a safe haven. Adela is from Indiana. She was kind of a rising track star, got pregnant. Her parents sent her down to Florida to stay with her grandmother to give birth and then come back. Simone had her children when she was about 15 or 16. She's now 21, so she's the eldest of the girls. She had twins with a much, much older man named Tooth. And we kind of see her dealing with that reckoning of like, okay, I might have been groomed, I might have been a victim. And then we see her get pregnant again. So we kind of are now right there with her when she's trying to make that decision of keep, not keep the child. We actually are like in her mindset during that. So that's a really dark part of the book, honestly. And then we follow Emery. She is a young white girl from Florida who is very close with Simone, but also in a relationship with Simone's brother, on and off relationship. She ends up pregnant, but she's determined to finish school no matter what. But her boyfriend, on and off, is kind of not really feeling her after she tells him she's pregnant. And his parents are totally pissed off with him, but mainly Emery. You know, that classic, our son can never do wrong thing. But they casted Simone out, like they kicked her out the house and everything. But when her brother got Emery pregnant, it was kind of like, whatever, you know, very weird. And then Emery's grandparents are hardcore racists. So that dynamic was just like never going to work, honestly, if you really think about it. But yeah, we follow these girls. They come together, lots of drama, lots of like deep conversations of like domestic violence, abuse, grooming, being a young parent, birth, pregnancy. So just go into this also with, you know, that in mind, because it is heavy, it's a lot, and they're young girls. So it is also like kind of freaky to also imagine this is happening to young people, but this is very, very real. So I do appreciate Layla kind of giving a light to a community and women who I think are often in this situation. They are casted out of society, judged, but the men who took part in it are not even closely, you know, getting whacked. You know what I mean? So I do appreciate her kind of spotlighting these young girls in this book. And my last book is The Three Mothers, How the Mothers of Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and James Baldwin Shaped the Nation by Anna Malika Tubbs. I really enjoyed this book. I had, before I even started like tabbing books, I don't know if you can see it because it's pink, but I was annotating like crazy, as it says that on the book. So this book talks about the three mothers who raised these three pivotal leaders in the Black community in American history, if we're being completely honest. We follow Bernice Baldwin, who is the mother of James Baldwin. We follow Alberta King, the mother of Martin Luther King Jr., and Louise Little, the mother of Malcolm Little, aka Malcolm X. And yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I read this towards the end of my college career, and I have decided I'm going to reread this because I feel like I would see this now, being a few years removed from that, in a different light. And I would also want to highlight some more, but it just talks about the women's lives. Like, it talks about them before we even get to MLK, Malcolm X, James Baldwin. Like, before we even get to them, we literally start from their inception, their birth, and how they became who they were before they had their children. And then we see what they did that made them them. And I really appreciate that. I feel like in a lot of like the biopics and the biographies, we don't get that inside scoop of the mothers who raised these guys, these men who really shaped and changed the game for us. And, you know, I feel that same way about like the women in their lives, whether they were married to women or just the women that they worked around. I think that we don't often hear about them, but we especially don't hear about their mothers. So I really I'm appreciative of Anna Malika Tubbs doing this book, and I have to reread it. Honestly, I truly do. That is the 5 books I wanted to recommend about mothers, whether they're complex or just something just highlighting mothers and motherhood in general. I feel like being a mother, I am not one, but being a mother is really a hard job. So I really give my 1s and 2s to all the mothers out there, whether you are biologically a mother, whether you are a mother, like adoptive mother, foster mother, whether you just take in all the kids in your neighborhood and take care of them, whether you're an auntie, a grandmother, like whoever you are, I'm just so appreciative of what you do. And yeah, I just felt like this is a great stack of books that I wanted to recommend. And I really hope to do the same kind of video on complex fathers for the month of June for Father's Day. I feel like that will definitely hit home for me. Let me know down below if there's any books that you would recommend, whether the mother-daughter or mother-son relationship is strong or if it's just a complex dynamic. I'm really interested in those multi-generational deep dive, you know, familial drama kind of books. So let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.